Alright, welcome to part 2. Uh, Today I'm going to be working on jumping and falling, and as I've said before, I'm not a pro, I'm not an expert, I'm not a teacher. I'm just doing this project as kind of like a learning experiment and posting it in this format as kind of like a follow along, and these are the mistakes I made, and if you want to help out, feel free. Comments are down below. I also want to add something about multiplayer, because I didn't really talk about it in the last episode. I'm really unsure if I'm going to do multiplayer at all. This could end up being a non-multiplayer project entirely, which is fine. I would love to do multiplayer, but to be honest, I just don't know enough about it, and learning how to do multiplayer is definitely going to be part of the process here. Second of all, if you're wondering if there's a plan, I have listed a plan of how I'm going to handle sort of movement and camera, and then from there I think I'm going to decide whether or not I actually want to do multiplayer, because I do want to get multiplayer out of the way first, or at least start with multiplayer first, as everyone recommended for me. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Last time we left off just kind of finishing up the basics of movement, and today we're going to continue that, and we're going to add jumping. So let's first of all make a few quick changes that are kind of going to improve the way things work. So, by the way, there's one big mistake I made before recording this, and that's under if run. It should look like this. So just make sure that when you see it, you don't think it's some kind of a mistake that you made. This is a mistake that I made while recording this one. I basically had to reset every single time I recorded this episode, and I recorded this one a lot. And by the time I noticed that this was a mistake, I had already recorded it and been far too deep into editing. So first, I'm going to change base speed to 1. There's nothing wrong with the base speed previously, but I just made a mistake, and I need base speed to be 1 in order for it to work. So that's down here in velocity, times equals time dot delta time. So now if we have a look, yeah, now you can see working much better. So the reason why I did that has to do with jumping. Jumping kind of requires this, but that's fine. And then the other thing too is I just need to make sure that turning is happening fast enough, because this is not fast enough. In the game, turning actually happens a lot faster. So in order to do that, we're going to have to change rotate speed, which is already set to 1. So let's double that and see how that works. You know what? I think that's what... I think that's good. Okay, let me just change that here really quickly. Alright. So now we have one more issue to solve. And that is, how does our character deal with hills? So I'm actually just gonna move some things first. We'll move you over here. Bring this face up another 2 more meters. Actually, I'm going to extrude that out instead, and I'm just going to get rid of this collider here, and guess I'll just add a mesh collider. So I'm bringing this back down 2 meters, and then holding shift and lifting it up we'll kind of extrude a new thing. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom here. I'm going to bring this up by 1 and then hold shift and bring it down. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pull this forward. So now we've got like a little hill. And actually, now that I see it, I might actually just bring this up. Whoops. Alright, here we go. By another meter. So now that we have this hill here, probably need to change a couple things here too. So I'm going to bring this one over. And bring this one up. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And that should be fine. Everything should still work, I'm pretty sure. I'm not actually going to make this one, whoa, super bright in the corner here. Maybe I'll start changing some of these colors actually. So I guess I'll make the walls the outside as well. Sure, why not? I'll make the walls like a gray. No, a blue. Ground is gray already. So just blue. Just to calm down that brightness, because that was just far too much. It's azure. Very light azure. Okay, perfect. Alright, and I mean that wasn't totally necessary, but it did what it did. By the way, if you're concerned, just open up ProBuilder again. If you're concerned about all this extra geometry, a couple things you can do is here in the vertex select. We're going to look for weld vertices, or collapse. I think it's collapse. So with collapse vertices, I think you have to select first. I'm just going to switch this to this, just to hide the widgets or whatever they're called. So I think you have to select the first one, and then the ones that you want to merge. Not weld, collapse. And then you check collapse to first and collapse vertices. And then it'll recalculate all the stuff. And then do that for the other side. And now you should have a mesh that is much more optimized. It's really not a huge issue. Like, we're talking about an extra 4 polygons, but I like to keep things clean. And that's how you do it. I probably wouldn't have done it, honestly, if I wasn't just explaining it. Alright, so now I want to create something that allows us to fall. So first, we need to set gravity. Just, by the way, I labeled these, so velocity is under its own, running has its own, controller inputs has its own, and component references has its own. And actually I'm just going to get rid of the comments above start and update. Alright, so now I should probably comment inputs, inputs, there we go. And actually I'm just going to take controls, put it right at the top there. Okay, so like I said, we basically need gravity. And so I'm going to put this here. We're going to call it float gravity. And we're going to set it equal to -9. And then right next to that, I'm going to create a new float called velocity y. Alright. So in order to do falling, we basically need to set velocity y, right? So velocity y is actually going to plus equal gravity times time dot delta time. And so this is basically going to compound onto velocity. But the thing is, there's this thing called terminal velocity where you gain speed while you're falling, and then once you hit that speed, you don't actually gain speed anymore. And so now we have to create terminal velocity, and I'm just going to set that to like -25. And so right here, basically, I just want to make sure it says if controller dot is grounded, and I'm just going to say not right in front of it, and velocity y is greater than terminal velocity. So yeah, because it's negative, right? Okay, now here's the thing, right? If we don't check this, it's going to continue compounding, right? Until terminal velocity, of course. And what that means is while our character is just standing there, it's going to get to terminal velocity and everything's going to get really quick and snappy, right? So after controller.move, we need to go if controller is grounded. We want to set velocity y equal to 0. And then now that we're done that, I'm just going to put velocity y in the end here. We're going to go plus vector3 dot up, so just on the y-axis, times velocity y. So now, take the player, put him way up here. Just press play. You see, should accelerate and fall at a reasonable speed. Okay, so I'm just gonna reset the transform. Okay, but that's just falling, right? That's not jumping. We want to create jumping. So for jumping, we're going to create a whole new set of variables down here. The first one is going to be a bool. We're going to call that one jumping. Then we're going to create a set of floats, and they're going to be jump speed, no capital, jump speed, and jump height. And I'm going to set jump height to 4, and we'll change that as time goes. And then I'm going to create a new vector 3. We're going to call this one jump direction. And then down in controller inputs, let's actually just take controller inputs and put this right below inputs, just so it flows organizationally. Gonna take, you know what? Even better, let's just get rid of this and put it right up here. We're going to take this and type in jump. Now we actually have to receive that from a control, so let's also create jump here, and then we'll set it in player controls. And I want to set that to space, which is right up here. Or you can press the S key on your keyboard and it'll automatically cycle through all the options here that start with S, but just space. And then at the bottom of player controls, where we have our get inputs method, we're just going to put jumping, and jump is going to be equal to input dot get dot get key down, no, not get key down, just get key, controls dot jump. Cool. Alright, now that we've done that, let's actually create our void jump method. Basically it's going to set jumping equal to true, if jumping is not true. And then after that, what it's going to do is we're going to set jump direction equal to transform forward times inputs dot y plus transform right times inputs dot x. Then we're going to take all of this and we're going to put it in brackets, and after the brackets we're going to put dot normalize. So that's just going to normalize the direction, and then after that we're going to go jump speed is equal to current speed, and then velocity y is going to be equal to mathf dot square root, and this is really important, negative gravity times jump height. So I just want to stress this because I ran into a couple problems before. I was trying to figure out why this was having issues, but here's the thing, right? Gravity is already a negative, and you don't get a result from a negative square root. So you have to make it positive, which means you have to put a negative in front of a negative gravity. Alright, so then we're going to come up to above where velocity y is being set, and we're going to go if jump and controller dot is grounded. Then we're going to jump. And then just to make sure that this works and that jumping is not true while the controller is grounded, we're just going to come in here and go jumping is equal to false if jumping is true. Cool. So this should work. Okay, so first of all, our character is jumping way too high, like far over the so we need to change that. So there are a set of possibilities, right? First of all, we can change the jump height, so let's bring that down to 2 and see what that does. I think that's just going to slow the jump. Okay, not bad. Not bad. But essentially it's coming up to this 4 here. So I actually kind of want it to come up to to here, to this 1.5 meter mark. So first we're just going to divide that by 2, and then it's going to be 0.75 I think is going to be the jump height. So 0.75 f. Alright, so I think that's pretty good. Let's just double check that against some actual gameplay. So, based on the gameplay, it basically almost looks like it's happening too quickly. What I think is going to have to happen is the gravity is going to need to be turned down. So let's turn the gravity down to like 5. Let's see where that leaves us, I guess. Okay, so the jump height stays the same. And I think I'm going to turn it up to 6. I think that's going to be the right number. Alright, so here's another thing too. I'm not really sure why this is, but for some reason our inputs can influence the speed of the jump. So, oh yes, of course. So in order to fix this, we actually need to take this and ensure that... Did I really not do that? Yeah, okay, so this is very silly of me, but we actually have to apply the jump direction and the jump speed. I can't believe I forgot this, because I've recorded this like 4 times already. Basically, if we're not jumping, then you want to do the regular thing. Else, velocity is going to be equal to jump direction times jump speed plus vector3 dot up times velocity y. Alright. Oh, all of a sudden we need to bump these numbers right back up. So let's go back to 4, -9. Let's see what that gets us. Okay, so it's very, very slow now. And from what I'm seeing, I might change this one to 3 and maybe up the gravity to like 15 or something like that. Okay, this feels about right. Let's check that against the footage. A little bit faster. So I'm going to turn this up to 18. Okay, I think this is causing problems. Turn off light map static. All of these. I don't know why this just decided to reset everything to now. Let's have a look, see how it works. Alright, that feels right. Even at the end there, it sort of starts, the jump sort of starts off slow and then it builds up. And that's already an unrealistic jump, so I'm happy with that. And just to finish up, I'm just gonna make a couple comments here. So press space to jump. Apply gravity if not grounded. Stop jumping if grounded, and stop gravity if grounded. Excuse me. And then in here, set jumping to true. Set jump direction and speed. Set velocity y. And now the one final thing, and this is something that I actually missed while I was writing this and caught during editing. This should not be inside here because it's currently being multiplied by current speed. So essentially I'm just going to take this out, put it right next to current speed. And that should solve any issues that come up with it. Because essentially, if current speed is 0, we want all of this to become 0. But we don't want this to become 0 because we want velocity y to continue to apply to this. And that actually reminds me of something. current speed pretty much needs to be set to 0 if you're falling. Because, for instance, let's just take our guy. Like, if I start to fall, I can still manipulate my input directions. But I can't do that while I'm jumping. So, essentially, what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to make sure that while I'm falling, our inputs aren't affecting our fall. So, let's grab this. We'll do if grounded. Nope, if controller.isGrounded. I'm going to drop that in there. Else. And what we're going to do is we're going to go current speed is equal to mathf.lerp. And it's going to be current speed is the first one. We want it to be set to 0. And I think 0.25 should be fine. I might change that. That's too quick. So we need it to be, maybe I'll just add a 0. And then, in addition to that, since it's going from inputs normalized, I'm going to take inputs normalized. I'm going to put it at the top here, and then inside our else, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. It's going to be a vector2 lerp, nope, lerp, and we're just going to go inputs normalize. Oh, maybe I should set it first. I'm just going to set it up top, actually. Oops. I'm going to set it up top. Okay. Vector2 inputs normalized, and then the second one is going to be vector2 dot 0, and then by pretty much the same 0.025 f. Yeah, so basically you can control your strafing as long as you aren't in the air. I guess now that we're at the end, I may as well explain why I expanded this a little bit, and this is going to probably expand quite a bit more, but the reason why I created this was because in this episode I was hoping to tackle the issue of slopes. If you don't know what I mean, I'm actually literally just going to change this slope a bit more so that you can really see what I mean. Alright, so basically to explain what's going on, when you're moving around in a direction, your character has a maintained speed unless they're going backwards. And essentially, when you start to go up a hill, that speed is maintained, but it may look like the character is moving faster upwards because essentially the speed is maintained kind of on a 2D plane that is like the flat ground, and in order to maintain that speed horizontally, it actually picks up a little bit of speed vertically. So we need to be able to recreate that going downhill, because in order to correct this little skipping, we actually need to apply that speed in a downward direction along the normal, and then also we need to multiply it so that we can maintain a consistent speed going uphill and going downhill. By the way, the reason why skipping is happening is because we've essentially canceled out the gravity while we're traveling. So I'm applying forward momentum, and since there's no gravity, I'm basically just projecting forward. And then as soon as I stop touching the ground, gravity is applied, and that's why it looks like I'm hopping down the hill. So, yeah, just so you're aware, this is something that's going to happen with your character. This isn't a finished character controller, and I'll have to work on that in the next part. Alright, thanks for watching, and I guess thanks for bearing with me. This one was pretty riddled with mistakes and corrections, and you know, I try and do my best there. I know I keep like saying at the beginning that this is sort of like a learning process for me. It's like kind of a mix. Like I kind of know what to do, but at the same time I'm kind of trying to figure it out. Because obviously I've never made a World of Warcraft clone, but I've made character controllers before, and so it's just more applying that knowledge and challenging myself. But yeah, recording this episode was just a mess, and kind of just wanted to put it up. Yeah, so I think next part is probably going to be about slopes and that kind of thing. And yeah, thanks for watching.
Super trooper, super trooper, super trooper, and he sells soup.